Okay, I've just been notified we are live on my screen. So welcome everyone, staff, council, and the public to the regular council meeting Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place as per ministerial order electronically at Lake Cowichan, as per ministerial order M192. And I'd also like to acknowledge at this time that this meeting is taking place on the traditional unceded territories of Subasset, people of the lake, where we happily live, work, and play as neighbors. So with that, I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order at 6:45. And before we approve the agenda, I'd like to ask if there are any late items to be added. Okay, if I could add one myself, I would like to add, I'm not sure where it would be appropriate, under reports, the last one, we could add a deputy mayor's report as I've been away for a month, or we could add that right in as part of the mayor's report. We'll do it there. Okay, so we'll add deputy mayor's report just before the mayor's report under item 11, if that's okay. Okay, with that, I'll be looking for approval of the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Austin, second by Councillor McGonigal. Is Councillor Vomaka anywhere in sight? Not yet. All right. Well, we're not into any meat and potatoes yet here, so I'll call the question on this one. All those in favor and opposed, that motion carries. All right, has anybody reached out to Councillor Vomaka?
She may not realize that it's a second invite.
Yeah.
Is someone phoning her?
Yep.
So in the interest of filling some dead space, did anyone have an opportunity to watch the Paralympic opening ceremonies today? It was quite a performance. It was very well done, even with the time delay. It's hard to imagine that this is the 2020 Paralympic Games, seeing how we're in 2021. And it's fortunate that they have been able to pull them off. And it would appear that the Canadian contingent is taking extra precautions according to the program director. So if you have a chance, have a look.
Okay, sorry, Councilman McGonigal, I caught the beginning of what you were trying to say. Could you just quickly repeat the business part of that?
All good. I was just wondering if anyone had an opportunity to watch the opening ceremonies for the Paralympic Games from Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right.
a great performance.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we've got Councillor Omaka back with us. So Councillor Omaka, we are at item number 3 on the agenda, adoption of the minutes. So looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on July 27th, 2021. If there's no errors, omissions, do I see a hand? Oh, moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor McGonigal, or let's go Councillor Sandu this time. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 4, business arising and unfinished business. I see none. I see no delegations or representations. So I believe this will be the last time, if the motion passes, that we will have this verbal input from the public session on our agendas. So with that, we will pause for 3 minutes and come back at 6:54 for members of the public that wish to call in and give comment on subsequent items on this agenda only. Please call in at 250-749-6681. That's 250-749-6681. And we will pause the meeting for 3 minutes to allow you to call in. All right, welcome back, everybody. Mr. Fernandez.
No emails, all
emails.
telephone calls.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, let's carry on to correspondence. No action items. We have none. Information and consent items. We have one letter from the City of Langley regarding improvement to pre-hospital care system. Any members of council have comments on that letter? No. Touches closely to a subject that we all bring up now and again, but I think the difference is that they obviously operate under a full-time department. And so what they're asking for is something that I don't think we could 100% agree with every item on this letter. So, but it does at least address the part of the topics that become concerned with it, the downloading of medical services to our local volunteer fire departments. So, Mr. Councillor McGonigal, sorry.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think we can utilize some of those points if and when we do have a follow-up meeting with the appropriate authorities on our concerns, not specifically to what City of Langley has brought forward, but a more generic term on how the impact is on volunteer fire departments and small communities.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is a well-written letter, so that's good. We'll save that one. All right. So if there's nobody else, we can move along to reports now. And the first report is of the Finance Administration meeting held on August 10th, 2021. Councillor McGonigal, please.
Very much, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting held electronically at Lake Cowichan as per BC Ministerial Order M192 on Tuesday, August 10th, with the following recommendations. That the committee recommend that the Municipal Hall Phase 1 retaining wall contract be awarded to CETA Holdings at a cost of $110,259 plus GST. Also, that the committee recommend approval of the Lake Cowichan Fire Department, incident report in the amount of $5,997.03 for June 2021 be approved. Also, that the committee recommend approval of a leave of absence for Councillor Lorna Vomaka from the committee meetings to be held this day, August 10th, 2021. And with those, I will move that report.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGonigal. Second by Councillor Sandhu. Any questions? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much, Councillor McGonigal. Moving on to the minutes of the Public Works and Environmental Services held August 17th. Councillor Vomaka.
I believe Councillor Austin chaired that meeting for me, so she would like to present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Austin, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to move the minutes of Public Works and Environmental Services Committee held on August 17th, 2021 with the following recommendation: that the committee recommend that the contract to demolish the old fire hall bays and foundation of the old fire hall bays and removal of same be awarded to Lakeside Property Maintenance for the quoted price of $26,788.65 plus taxes.
All right, seconded by Councillor Sandhu. Any further discussion on those minutes? Seeing no hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have the Park Recreation and Culture Committee meeting held August 17th, 2021. And I believe we're going to Councillor Austin again.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the minutes of the Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting held on electronically on Tuesday, August 17th as presented.
Thank you very much. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Sandhu, thank you. Any further discussion? Oh, you have a question too? Go ahead.
Thank you. Just regarding the community cleanup, the Cowichan Lake River Stewards Society, along with the Tube Shack, have printed a card for September 12th date of the river cleanup. So it's too late for us to go in on that with them, but we really do need to get some free advertising out there sooner than later. So say by the end of this week, if we could have staff have something, and then I can get it out there to where it needs to go.
Would that be created by staff?
That was the plan from last from our public works our parks meeting, was that they were going to put something together. So, but right. September's creeping up really quick. Thank you.
Okay, so that's direction to staff to produce that ASAP, please. And also if we could have that shared on Facebook as well too, so we can share the heck out of it. All right. So with that, you seconded those minutes and then you had a comment. So now can we move on to adopting or approving that? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next on the list, a little bit of out of order, but we got the strategic planning meeting of August 10th, 2021. And Councillor Austin, again, you're carrying the workload here on this portion.
Thank you again. I'd like to move the minutes of the Strategic Planning Committee held on Tuesday, August 10th, 2021 as presented.
All right, seconded by Councillor McGonigal. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And opposed, the motion's carried. Thank you very much. All right, then we can move on to other reports here from the Couch and Lake Recreation Commission. That would have been myself, but I was away at the time that the commission called a special meeting, and the alternate, Councillor McGonigal, attended, and I believe he has something to report there.
Just a short report, if I may, Mayor Day, fellow councillors. There was a special meeting called on August 19th for the Couch and Lake Recreation Commission. One topic, the Junior B Kraken team made a presentation to the commission, and with some points of clarification. There will be a staff report to follow as per resolution that was brought forward on the implications of those requests. That will come forward at a later date, at which time I'm sure you will be in attendance. So thank you for the opportunity to attend that. And we'll move on and see what the staff report has to say.
All right, thank you. So we'll see what happens with meetings, but the next scheduled meeting, I believe, is October 21st. So a little ways off there.
And if I may, I think there was a possibility of moving that forward if the staff report comes earlier than that as a special meeting in itself as well.
Okay. All right, look forward to that for sure. Okay, thank you very much, Councilor McGonigal. Thank you for filling in for me on a little bit of short notice. So we can move along to now the Vancouver Island Regional Library. Councilor Romack, anything to report from that organization?
We still have no meeting. I think it's planned for September, where we were going to meet the new executive director. I don't know what will happen now, whether we'll be back to still Zoom meetings or an in-camera. So that's still up in the air. The first edition of the, let's see if I can even read it. A few meetings ago, I was telling you about the new Sea and Cedar magazine, and it's a twice yearly edition. And what they do is they go to the people in the Virl and ask them to submit short stories. What do they call them? Poems. And they had an overabundance of so many that they could only select a few, but yet it's a 72 pages and it's a digital PDF file that you can actually go on to. So on their Facebook site, it's under C-S-C-A and A-N-D, Cedar, C-E-D-A-R. Or you can go on the Virl website. So a note from the editor: welcome to the very first issue of Sea and Cedar magazine. We could not be happier to present this exciting collection of new writing and artwork. It is wonderfully representative of the great creative talent to be found all over our beautiful West Coast area. Our hope with this publication is to open up connections, foster discussion, and generate excitement about the work produced by the strong, vibrant writing and art communities we are proud to support at Vancouver Island Regional Library. The response we received to our first call for submissions was overwhelming, and it was a great challenge to narrow our selections down to just a few that would fit within a single issue. Our team enjoyed reading and viewing each and every submission, and we are so appreciative of everyone who took the time to send us work. We hope this enthusiasm and support carries on as we work to bring you more issues of CN Cedar magazine. Inside these pages, you will find art, poetry, short fiction, and creative nonfiction from a range of voices, perspectives, and experience levels. Everyone is sure to find something here to enjoy, and we look forward to bringing you more great writing and art very soon. Some of the artwork was really amazing. So there's, I'll leave it to you if you'd like to go on to look at some of the poems and short stories. Some very talented people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Maka. And just in case I missed it in your comments, is that available online to look at?
Yeah, you can either go to the Viral website,
Okay.
or they have their own Facebook page, which is CN Cedar.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you go on, you can download the digital PDF publication and you can see all 76 pages.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very much. All right, then we can move along to the Advisory Planning Commission and Councillor Austin. Anything to report from there?
Thank you. Our next meeting will be the fourth Thursday in September.
All right. Thank you. And Community Forest Co-op, Councillor McGonigal, please.
Nothing to report at this time, Mayor Day.
All right, thank you. All right, well then, I'm sure there's something under this category. Cowichan Valley Regional District Board meeting, Councillor McGonigal.
Well, there are no meetings in August, but the Cowichan Valley Regional District staff have been extremely busy with regional emergency operations centers in area G, H, and Ladysmith with some recent forest fires. So they have been run off their feet, getting continuous updates on the continuation of the Mount Hayes fire. And fortunately, it is contained, but still burning. So the advisories are still in place for those properties, the LNG facility and the fish hatchery, I believe. So kudos to all the staff at the CBRD for the hard work they have put forward in the regional emergency operations centers. And hopefully they will not be needed much longer. So with that, I thank each and every one of them for the hard work.
Yeah, and from an outsider looking in, even from a couple provinces away, it was good to see the regular news releases and stay up to date on that. I noticed that local residents here were concerned as well and wanting information, and very easy to find us. So it's awesome. Not so awesome the events, but they're good at keeping the public informed as well. All right, community outreach team, Councillor Austin.
Thank you again. Yes, they were going to have a meeting in September, so I will connect with them as they will have some new members down there, and I just want to make sure they're going to keep that going. So I'm hoping there will be one in September.
Okay. So the next one, Councillor Sandhu, you have a report from our Cowichan.
We did not have a meeting in August. Our next meeting is September 9th.
And it will be in person, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we'll
see.
it.
Yeah, okay. I guess we
Yeah.
are up in the air as of late, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Suppose that'll be a conversation for us to have too. We'll see where things go. The Cowichan Watershed Board, Councillor Sandhu.
So we had no meeting in August. Our next meeting is September 27th, and I have a Watershed Society meeting coming up in September.
Okay.
Which I'll report in camera
Okay.
at a regular meeting in September.
Okay. Thank you very much. And let's hope we get some rain between now and again. Help the watershed out. Okay, that ends other reports. Now we can move to staff reports, and we have a report from the contract planner regarding the official community plan amendment bylaw 1053/2021. And I think it would be appropriate at this point to move to the CEO or the planner for opening commentary.
I think the contract planner would be the best on this
All
issue.
right, Mr. Van Hemert. other button. There we go.
Okay, I've got it. I've got it. Let me just pull this open here. I'll just say a few words about this. Just very quickly, with respect to the staff report, I quickly outlined in the report some of the history behind why the current designation for institutional use is in place. And there was a lot of dialogue at the time in 2018 and 19 when the LCP was updated by the Advisory Planning Commission, as well as the supporting working group that dealt with that type of land use. And we did have a debate about whether or not the land should be developed as multiple unit residential or other type of more intense urban use. And at that time, the committee did feel it was best to preserve the institutional. So that was part of the thinking behind the staff recommendation. That's not to say that it is inappropriate for council to consider changing that. It's a living document, and it is completely appropriate to consider an application such as the one before you for a change. In this particular case, the rationale for proposing a change, staff did not find was sufficiently compelling. And that comes down to some of the issues related to the rezoning, which is a companion application. I just do want to point out that this is a separate application. And as the CAO pointed out earlier, there is a reason why the LCP, which is future oriented, needs to be considered before rezoning, such as the one that is before you. So that is somewhat the short version of the request and the response that staff made in terms of supporting the proposed change. And I do want to say one other thing that's really important. The applicant specifically requested a change just on the land use map. And it didn't cover everything. And staff made an important point that the requirement of the LCP for a community, some kind of neighborhood center, remains regardless of what decision you make, as whether it stays as institutional or becomes urban compact. And that's reflected in the way the zoning bylaw amendment was prepared. That's the next application. But in this case, I just want to point that out, that there still remains in the LCP a neighborhood center of some type, even if it's a small recreation, as well as a multi-purpose trail. That remains. That's actually a separate part of the LCP. It's not part of the land use map. And I did make that point. And if I understand the applicant's comments, that is supported. But I just want to make a point that regardless of the decision you make tonight, it is our understanding that those elements of the LCP remain. And I just hope that makes sense, and feel free to ask me any questions about that. It's not always immediately apparent, particularly to the public, the distinction between an LCP and the zoning. And it is an important distinction. Anyways, I'm happy to go on for that, but that's enough said for now. Thank you.
All right, council, is there any questions or comments for any staff here? Councilor Maka.
Thank you. Question is to our partner. The neighborhood center, would that be something similar to, I think, Brookside has a little clubhouse, community clubhouse in their development? Is that similar of what you're looking for? Because obviously close proximity to the downtown core, you're not looking for retail businesses and coffee shops up in that area. But when you're talking about a civic use or a neighborhood center, this is what I'm confused with.
Yeah.
Mr. Van Hemert.
And when you were talking about benches and gazebos, is it something that's in there for that neighborhood and other people to come to enjoy? Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, may I
Yes, go ahead.
respond?
Go ahead, Ms.
Yes,
Van Hemert.
very, Councillor Vomaka, that's a very good observation and good question, because it could be a range of elements. So in this case, I've recognized, and I've stated this in the staff report, that it doesn't necessarily mean, nor would it be appropriate to have, a retail center, for example, in this location, because it's too close to downtown. And even something like a clubhouse that would be only available for strata owners, if that's what is ultimately developed. That isn't necessarily what's implied either. It could be, but in this case, it really should be something that's fully available to all the people who live in that area, not just this development. And that's why I've made the presentation that the multipurpose trail and some affiliated outdoor-oriented exercise or gathering space equipment, benches, a gazebo, would be appropriate. If I understand correctly, some of that land is already used informally for people to walk their dogs and hike the trails. So it would be a natural fit that on land that would be dedicated for public use, that there'd be some kind of facility that is recognizable as a place where the neighborhood, and that include the broader neighborhood, could make use of. And that's what's really intended. And I believe that's what was the intent of the OCP language and why we put a red star on the map for that purpose. And I should point out very briefly that that was a very important point by the Advisory Planning Commission, that we recognize that north of the river, there really isn't much available for the public in terms of a gathering area or a park. And that's why that's on the map.
So thank you. And as a follow-up, I was talking to our CAO this morning, and I know that when we were talking a park, and of course there was talk of a close proximity to Paulson School, so no need for a child's park. And so my question to him this morning was, being so many people do walk there with their dogs, would it be favorable for the proponent to offer to put in a dog park? And would that justify to fill that as a public use?
Mr. Van Hemert.
Well, yes, in my opinion, yes. Although I didn't include that language as an example, that would be in the spirit of the policy in the OCP, yes.
Thank you.
All right, councilors. Council McGonigal, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you to the CAO, if I may. This property originally came for consideration approximately 13 years ago. And some of the same concerns were brought forward by staff and public on access, etc. And given that the focus group on the public portion of the OCP update has identified this property as institutional, has anything changed from the original application to implement changes to accommodate those concerns? For example, the secondary access for emergency vehicles, etc., set-asides for riparians, which can be dealt with within the OCP amendment that we're going to have coming forward. But have any of those concerns been dealt with?
The answer would be no.
Thank you very
Follow-up?
much.
Okay.
And if I may, a follow-up
Yes, please.
through to James. So I think it's important that people realize that there was no political influence on the OCP update that implemented that within staying within the institutional. There were elected officials there as liaisons on each group, but this was a public driven official community plan update, not a political update. Just to be clear that it was the public that brought these forward as concerns and considerations for the improvements of the OCP.
Thank you very much for those comments. Anybody else? Yeah, just to piggyback on Council McGonigal's comments and a couple of his comments that, you know, these OCPs are produced to look out for 35 years. And I know they are a fluid document, but they should be respected at any process, any part of the process, especially for rezoning and stuff like that. And that's why it's part of the process, and it's there long in advance of any proponent for any development to look at and fashion a development that would fit that. I just have a clarifying question on one of the maps. It's figure 4 in your report, land use designation limited to developable area. In there, we've identified urban neighborhood compact and institutional with boxes and arrows. Could you explain that map to me, please, Mr. Van Heemert? After you unmute, of course.
I'm not real fast on the draw there.
Join the club.
It's a good thing. My life doesn't depend on that. Yes. So I should let you know that it is my perspective that it is ideal that we designate areas that are suitable for development and areas that we intend to retain as institutional actually be reflected on the OCP rather than just on land ownership boundaries. Okay, so the applicant is asking for the full land ownership to be changed to urban neighborhood compact, and I understand the notion that some of it would be put in a covenant and would be protected because it is riparian. I think a stronger case is made when the land for urban development is actually limited to what is suitable for urban development. And that's the case I made. So that's why you have this map here. But we had to so that's actually would be the recommendation. If you are so inclined to make the change, this is actually the ideal change. Now, I recognize that because the application was for the full property ownership as urban neighborhood compact, we had to stick with that program, and that's why the advertising and the public notice was all for the entire property, because that's what the applicant is asking for. But I just wanted to make a point here in the staff report that ideally this would be the most ideal redesignation if you were so inclined to go in that direction.
All right, so as I understand it, by looking at it then, there's 2 lots and you've put in urban neighborhood compact as a portion of 1 lot, and we're leaving the second lot institutional. That's how I'm interpreting it.
No, there actually is only 1 lot. The
Okay.
institutional arrow ideally would, it should actually be further to the north. It covers both the school district property, which is that second lot, but it's also the purple color is what's recognized. So the institutional land would be on the northern edge and the southern edge of the applicant's property, which is the 21 Oak Lane property. So yeah, it is still only 1 parcel of land. Sorry for the confusion. The institutional, I'm representing the color. And so, yeah, it is 1 property only.
All right. All right, so I have one other comment that it's making it hard for me to support this, given the fact that the OCP was there long before the application, and we couldn't get any closer than where it's at today with the application. And the biggest sticking point for me is the access. I really believe that it should be a through road and built to community standards to allow for access for garbage and emergency vehicles, etc., with the density of the housing going in there. So that's my comment on that. Does anybody else care to continue before we call a vote on this amendment? Okay, any more discussion?
If I may, Mayor
Go
Day, I
ahead.
think that was just a staff report for our
Copy.
information and input.
Yeah.
We will deal with the bylaw at a later date,
Yeah,
further down the agenda.
yeah,
Just
all
for
right.
clarity.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, then we can go to the staff report from the contract planner, zoning amendment bylaw 1054, 2021. And we'll go to Mr. Van Hemert again.
Okay. I'm going to just make a few brief comments regarding the zoning amendment. And we covered quite a bit of territory on this. And I do just want to say that staff participation was very important in the conclusion we came to on whether or not to support the rezoning as it was presented. And so we went through considerable work to receive written comments from our superintendent of public works, as well as our fire chief. We did have face-to-face meeting. We also sought out input from the school district with respect to any additional land purchase. And you can see that comment was there about the process that would be required. And so all the staff came to the conclusion about the second access point. And while the rezoning doesn't specify the precise nature, it is important, I believe, to preserve the best options, the widest range of options for the town. What is in the best interest of the town as a whole? And that's why staff did not come to the conclusion that the rezoning as it was presented was really in the best interest of the town, especially since no additional land was purchased, regardless of how the property might be accessed, whether it was an emergency access only or whether it was only for active transportation. That second point of access doesn't exist today. There is no legal access at this point in time that will provide any of those options. I do want to recognize that the applicant has been agreeable and supportive of the affordable housing component. And I do want to recognize an error that I made. I concluded it was 13 units. The math wasn't correct. A little bit embarrassing. I don't know how that happened, but it is 12, not 13. So I just want to point that out because I know that came up from the applicant's perspective. But I do just want to point that out. And as I made a separate map just to illustrate, I did in the staff report also produce a map that identified, should you proceed with the rezoning, ultimately, the ideal amount of land would be just over 3 hectares, not the full piece. And there's reasons for that, but it really is best in terms of how we calculate density and bonus, that be restricted to that amount of land. That's my professional advice. And so that's really where we fell as staff, that it really wasn't in the best interest of town as it was presented. Now, I would like to point out one other thing in terms of the way I wrote the bylaw. The bylaw that is presented to you, should you decide to move forward and approve that bylaw for the rezoning, there is a schedule, and this is a very important schedule, and you won't find it if you go online, but it is Schedule E, and it actually does exist because we've used it for 2 other rezonings already, if not 3. And it identifies amenity contributions and the affordable housing contribution. And so that is in there. And that's where it states specifically the number of units to be affordable. And then the other column, which I wrote it in there because it's part of the official community plan, is the recognition of the trail to construct a multi-purpose trail, as well as an example of some of the amenities that would be provided. And that is in there. And it is my understanding in further writing that the applicant has made since then that he is supportive of the trail, although he doesn't necessarily admit he would help pay for it. But if the rezoning was approved this way, that would be a commitment for any future developer to construct those improvements. And I just want to point that out, that is consistent with how we have handled a number of rezonings in recent years. And so that's that Schedule E that you've seen on the zoning bylaw. And I'm just explaining what that means. it can be a little bit confusing if you don't understand some of the background. But I just wanted to explain that briefly, that's there. Should you decide to go forward, that's an appropriate approach to use in the time of rezoning. So.
All right, any questions on those comments from Mr. Van Hemert? Or on the rest of the report? So seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Van Hemert, for those two very comprehensive reports and those great explanations. It definitely helps us along in understanding. It looks like a very complicated process to try and meld the official community plan and the Local Government Act and all those things. So good job. Thank you very much for all the work you've done. So then we can move along to bylaws. And bylaw 8A, is the Town of Lake Cowichan Animal Control Amendment Bylaw number 1052 2021 may be reconsidered and adopted. Moved by Councillor McGonigal, looking for a seconder, Councillor Sandhu. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor? Opposed? None, motion's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, then we can move along to item B. The Town of Lake Cowichan Official Community Plan Bylaw Amendment number 1053 2021 may be read a third time. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, Your Worship, this was the subject of a public hearing earlier in the day. And it's been given first and second reading previously, and it's here for third reading.
All right. In that case, we'll be looking for someone to move it. Moved by Councillor Austin. And is there a seconder? Councillor Sandhu. All right. Any discussion? Councillor Austin first, then Councillor McGonigal.
Yes, I've read all the reports and the different information from our town planner, and I thank you for that, James. And I'm finding it very hard to support this motion on the grounds of the different items that are brought up in this section. So that's just my opinion on that.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. Okay, Councillor McGonigal.
Thank you very much. And we do rely on our staff to guide us in our decision making, whether it's our planner, our CAO, or our superintendent of public works. And through that advisement and some of the concerns that I brought forward earlier, I myself cannot support this either at this time. We all want to see good projects move forward appropriately, and given that there is concerns from staff, I unfortunately am not in a position to support this.
Councillor Sandhu.
Thank you. The same issues go back 13 years ago, and reading these reports, the applicant was notified over and over again over these years about a secondary access. And that hasn't been something that he's moved forward. The notes regarding the school district, the purchase of the school district land, that should have been addressed before with the school district before this came before council, in my opinion. Having everything lined up, and then you bring this forward to town council for approval. So I just feel that there's been a lack of effort put on what staff has requested over the years. So I cannot support this zoning amendment.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sandhu. OCP amendment, yes.
OCP, yeah.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? Okay, seeing no hands, then I'll call the question on the Town of Lake Cowichan Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1053 2021 for the third reading. All those in favor? And opposed? 3 opposed, 1 for. Councilor Romaka, would you like your name recorded? All right, yes, please. All right, so that motion is defeated to approve that bylaw, third reading. So given that, Mr. CEO, could you guide us forward?
Yeah, the reconsideration and adoption would be not necessary, will actually be futile. We'll pass
All right.
that and go to the next one.
So,
The,
okay, Town Lake Couch and Zoning
Zoning
Amendment
Amendment Bylaw 1054.
2021. Yes,
Maybe
and so the Town Lake Couch and Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1054 2021 may be read a third time. Mr. Fernandez or
Yes.
Mr. Van Hemert, any comments?
Yeah, it was the subject of a public hearing earlier, been given first and second reading, and it's here for your consideration.
All right. Are there any movers of this? Okay, I don't see any hands, so it falls right there. All right. Thank you very much. I guess that means we can move along to F now.
F, yes.
Okay, the
And-
Town of Lake, sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
The Town of Lake Cowichan Council Procedure Bylaw number 1059, 2021 may be reconsidered and adopted. Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, and this is as a result of council making a decision to delete the verbal comment from the public on a subsequent item on the agenda. So this bylaw would basically do that, and it's been amended in its entirety. So it's coming back as a complete bylaw with that change made.
All right. Moved by Councillor Austin. Second by Councillor McGonigal. Any discussion? All those in favor? And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move along to G now. Town of Lake Cowichan Sign Regulation Bylaw number 1060, 2021 may be reconsidered and adopted. Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, this bylaw has been given 3 readings, and it's here for reconsideration and adoption. And I think the contract planner could maybe add to why we're here now and give some input from his perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Van Hemert, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, here we are. Okay, I was quick on the draw there. This is essentially a housekeeping amendment. And I'm just going to itemize what those changes are. The first set of changes are 2 new definitions, one for political signs and one for temporary sign, which is something neither of them had been clearly stated before. In fact, the current bylaw uses words like placards and bills, and it's not clear what those actually mean. So that's the first change. And the second change has to do with the extent to which this bylaw applies for land uses. The current bylaw, interestingly enough, just overlooks residential. It's specifically reflected on commercial, business, institutional, and industrial lands. And because it failed to specify residential, we've had some problems in the past years with respect to residential property owners putting up specific kinds of signs. So that's addressed by simply stating this applies to all owners and tenants who may be putting signs up in the town. We've also, with respect to temporary signs, we've incorporated residential dwellings also within that definition or within the regulations. And there's a new section that specifies how long political signs can be set up. So this is beyond just the definition. Basically, you're looking at 60 days and they can't be erected where there's public safety or traffic safety issues. And then finally, there's just a few other small things related to that same topic here and there, word changes to make sure that we're consistent. And I think that covers it. That's pretty much it.
All right. So looking for a mover there. Moved by Councillor Austin, second by Councillor Sandu. Any questions for staff on this? Now I will call the question. All those in favor and opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So now we can move along to H, Town Lake Cowichan Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 1061 2021. Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, this was also the subject of a public hearing earlier this evening. And it basically, what it does is adds two maps to the bylaw, to the OCP. One is the map 3, which is the watercourse and streamside protections. And then also revises the term, and now it's called the streamside protection and enhancement areas, which is SPEAR, and adds the map 5, which is a natural hazard lands wildfire development permit area map. So those are the two additions to the OCP, which were not that clearly defined previously. So it's here for reconsideration and adoption.
And are you moving that, Councillor McGonigal? Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Sandu. So any further discussion on third reading of this official community plan amendment? Mr. Van Hemert.
If I may, I'd just like to address one comment made by John Roller with respect to the location of the stream on his property. So you should know that the map as presented is more conceptual than precise. And that's not something we were able to do anything about. The data that is available for identifying streams is just simply not precise. We were not able to get any better data at the time of this update. So we have language in the OCP that clarifies this and makes it clear that these streams may not be in the precise location. A qualified environmental professional is still required if there's a stream, and they would do the study and we would do the appropriate work as part of the development permit process. So I just wanted to reflect that because that's true for many parts of the town. The streams identified on the map are conceptual. It's not as accurate as we would like it to be. We simply didn't have better data, but the language is in place to reflect that. And I just wanted to point that out to just satisfy the concern raised by John Roller, and that would be a concern potentially raised by any citizen who's looking at their property saying, well, that's not precisely where the stream is. We know this and we have language to reflect it. So I just wanted you to know that.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor McGonigal.
Thank you very much. And without the update on the wildfire interface that was recently finished, it could not have been implemented in the OCP. So it's important that that process ran its course, and those have been identified along with the stream side characteristics that you spoke of. So it's a good update for sure.
Yeah, agreed. So with first and second, we have comments. Any more comments? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the third time reading? All those opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. We'll move on to I now, Town Lake Cowichan Official Community Plan Bylaw Amendment 1061-2021 may be reconsidered and adopted. Looking for a mover. Moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor McGonigal. Any further discussion? All those in favor and opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Heavy evening for bylaws. So that means we can move along to new business and Vancouver Island Economic Alliance State of the Island Economic Summit 2021 to be held October 27th, 2021. I assume that is here for approval of attendance by members of council, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Councilor McGonigal.
I would move that those members of council who wish to attend be afforded that opportunity.
Seconded by Councillor Sandu, and with the comment that they can just report to the CEO on their interest in attending. All right.
Just a
Councillor
question.
Austin, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, usually we say the number of people that can attend because it is a little bit on the expensive side. I think it's $400 for the full 2 days. So I would just suggest that it keep to 2 members of council, or does that agree with everyone?
That would be an amendment to the motion. Councilor McGonigal?
I think given our lack of attendance at any events in the last 2 years, that should not be a problem. If all
Okay.
5 of us want to go, I think that would be appropriate. It's a very good summit. I have attended in the past, and I'm sure all of us have.
I have.
I'm sure not all 5 of us will attend, but for those that wish to, I wouldn't want to limit to and have 3 people that did want to go. So whoever
Okay.
wants to attend, in my view, but that's just me.
Yeah,
Okay.
having attended in the past as well, it's a great opportunity to get your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the Vancouver Island economy, especially. So
Okay.
that's good. And yeah, I don't think we've blown our budget on council expenses. So all right. Okay, thank you for that, though, Councillor Austin. So on that note, we'll keep the motion as presented by Councilor McGonigal. It's been moved and seconded, and then I'll call the question. If there's no more comments, all those in favor? And opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right. Thank you very much. Then let's move on to the Decibel Coalition regarding the official public support of Decibel Coalition and membership. Everybody's had a chance to read that. I don't know if anybody wants to move that we sign on, or perhaps staff could make some comments if they have anything to say about this.
Well, they did make a presentation to one of the committees.
Yeah.
And I guess they promised to bring back a resolution, a sample resolution for council to adopt. And staff have no input on this. It's really up to council to determine whether to go forward.
All right, Councillor Austin.
Sorry. There are signs on the highway and at the weir, unmuffled boats are not allowed, as I did mention before. So that is already basically set out in our town. So I can't see a problem with signing a resolution. I just don't know where you go from there, like what that means.
Go ahead, Councillor McGonigal.
I think given the town's boundaries and the lack of the lake being incorporated in the municipality, that this would be more appropriate at a regional district level to endorse membership and inclusion in the National Decibel Coalition. So if we could forward this to the CBRD for consideration, I think that would be more appropriate, given that the river is within our jurisdiction and not much of the lake, if any.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and my memory serves me correct, that they were looking for people to sign on to this to sort of giving them marching orders so they can get some federal and provincial laws in place and give the RCMP or anybody who's in charge on the waters some teeth in controlling the noise levels. So great idea. Do we need a motion for that?
I don't
Or
think
just
so. I just wanted to
direction to
follow up
staff.
that, we certainly do feel for the people in our surrounding communities, whether it be Yubo, Missachi Lake, Honeymoon Bay, that have to deal with this. But unfortunately, by endorsing becoming a member, we're only controlling the river. And I think it's appropriate that the proper jurisdiction endorse this and become a member. We can certainly piggyback that on our support.
Okay, so we'll just take that as direction to staff to forward Councilor McGonigal's suggestion.
And one more thing, if I may, during the delegation, we did suggest that he does present to the CBRD. So hopefully there will be a follow-up when we do continue the regional district meetings and have him as a delegate. And again, that can be brought forward as a suggestion at that time.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so then we can move along to number 11, and the first item will be Deputy Mayor's Report. Councillor Austin.
Right, thank you. I appreciated that nothing severe happened while you were away, Mr. Mayor. so that I
I was
didn't,
watching.
I didn't have a great deal to do, but I did have a meeting with Sonia Firstenow and her assistant Maeve McGuire on August 19th. And I did invite council. They came from the TCT, Trans-Canada Trail, on their e-bikes and stayed for the better part of an hour. The TCT maintenance came up because they wondered why the part near town was not quite as well maintained. And I mentioned that that was under the Ministry of Transportation and BC Parks. And Sonia thought that perhaps they could write a letter and talk to their cohorts down there about maybe doing something with the CVRD with some funds on a grant for maintenance, seeing as they have the rest of the trail. And I know they did that. CVRD did maintain the trail in the beginnings when we built that trail. Ms. Firstenow wanted to know about some of our current concerns. So of course I brought up the ambulance issue, which was very important to us. And AB Greenwell, because of the derelict school and other things, other items. She would like information on both those issues so she can write letters to the powers that be and maybe get some things moving along for us. So I think Mr. Fernandez will be sending her information, hopefully on AB Greenwell and on our ambulance issues, especially with the fire chief putting some information in. They were interested in our present growth and how we were dealing with that while trying to keep our rural designation. I mentioned our recently updated OCP and that it included many great rules and guidelines for zoning and developments, etc. And I told them about all the developments that are underway at the present time. I brought forward the fact that we did not receive the much needed grant for our sewer upgrades though, which is necessary for all our growth that is happening here. And she was quite concerned about that. She did make notes of that as well. Because fires were mentioned in our discussions, I told them that we had 8 areas within our town that are designated as fire smart areas, fire smart neighborhoods, and what a great job our volunteer firefighters are doing, and how some of our members go to these different fires currently burning in the interior 2 weeks at a time or whatever with equipment. We also discussed the very few homeless we have here and the situation with the transient homeless entering our community during the warm weather, along with the mental health and addiction issues with these people when no services are available. And Sonia asked me how I felt about the Ferry Creek situation and the protesters within town. And I was frank with her about where my loyalties lie and that what had been happening with the protesters that we were not pleased about in this town and in Missachi. We also talked about the tubers on the river as well, and that problem that we feel there are with some of the residents. And I did mention the Pachidat and Forest Co-op and their collaboration as the Colayet and the great work that they do and the funds back to the community. So forestry is very important in our area still, and we are pleased about that. So the conversations were positive. They listened intently and made notes and were sincere. I was very pleased that they came out to find out what we were doing here and what our concerns were. So I thank them and you for that opportunity.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Austin, for representing council during that visit. By e-bike. Yes. All right. So thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Austin? We'll say, okay, so given that I was absent for the month of August mostly, but not much of a mayor's report, but there is something that's top of mind with all of us and a concern and a worry. And we have recently agreed to go with the regional model for emergency management. So we drove from here to Saskatchewan and back, and I just made some observations. And it may sound philosophical, but I felt the need to share this, and I think it will make sense to you. And it's not very long, so please bear with me. Change, probably one of the most difficult words to describe because it applies to almost all aspects on life on Earth. I find the most suitable way for myself to come to terms with this word is change is going to happen. Climate change. It's getting harder and harder to deny this particular change. For the past 60 years, I have been traveling back and forth across the province en route to the prairies to connect with family. This year, one of those road trips, we drove through a cloud of thick smoke from Hope to Golden, BC. And at a time, I felt that we were traveling at nightfall when it was actually only 10 a.m. in the morning. And I kid you not, it was from Hope to Golden. On the way to our destination, we passed by a small forest fire beside the Coquihalla Highway where we actually saw flames. And when we returned, we witnessed the mountainside on both sides of the highway burnt for what seemed like a 20-kilometer stretch from top to bottom, and the fire was still traveling. Wildfires are causing every level of government today, especially in BC, to plan for and prepare for what could happen anywhere at any time. We could debate climate change as something we can't have control over or not, but the effects of the events caused by it affect all of us where we live and we have to be willing to adapt and interact with its effects because it is here. Sometimes I wonder if climate change plays a role in every aspect of our lives, from whether we go outside, what we drive, the type of heat we use, what we eat, how we dress, and the list could go on and on. The common denominator in any kind of change is how does it affect my family, my community, the environment, and the ecology, and how can we all adapt to what we cannot control to keep us all safe where we live? So those were my thoughts from that journey. And I just, to put in off the cuff terms, like I was just blown away on how much land the fire had consumed in 2 weeks. And it was amazing. And there were still hot spots popping up everywhere, kilometers away from the original fire, because I guess the sparks travel fast in the wind on the Coquihalla. Thankfully, it didn't come near any homes, although it was reported to be getting close to Merritt, and there was an evacuation alert put on and then taken off at a later time. But it really brought things home for me when we talk about wildfire and the things that are going on with and that climate change and drought is part of it that can be a contributor to these types of events. So we're very fortunate to not have to witness here, but I also at the same time, while tracking these fires, I feel as comfortable as we all can that there are hundreds, if not thousands of people and lots of equipment ready to come to the aid should fire begin to interface with human lives and homes. So that's my mayor's report for the month of August. Councillor Sandine.
Well, just you talking about, your drive to Saskatchewan and, as a child growing up here in the 70s, like there were areas of our mountains on fire. And we would sit in our house on 100 houses, and you would be watching that way, you'd be watching this way, burning. And you saw the community come together in every aspect of this community. And I would hate to see that now. I mean, I still visually, and I have pictures, but to see that now, I think would be just with climate change and where we're sitting, drought, whatnot. We're very fortunate, and I count my blessings every day that we do not have any issues at this time in our community. Yeah. I truly do.
Yeah. And just as another side story, I didn't want to write it into there too. But now we're having a little bit of a chat that, as a part-time person in the landscaping world, there are plants out there suffering that I've never seen suffer in all my years of gardening. So it's not just humans being affected. I mean, that 43-degree heat, rhododendrons seem to grow prolifically everywhere. But this year I'm watching dozens of them die on properties just because there's not only is there not any water underground for them, but there's nothing to keep them cool on top. So they've been devastated by this. And I know there's species of trees in the forest that are not handling this well either. So yeah, it's definitely an effect. And like I say, this really brought it home for me when I seen what it can done. And the smoke went all the way to Saskatchewan. They were joking, what'd you bring that with you for? Yeah, so for me, that just brought it to reality. So thank you very much for listening to that, and there we go. All right, then let's move to notices of motions. There were none introduced at the beginning of the meeting. I don't see any hands going up for anything now. And that will move us along to question period, where we will pause for 3 minutes and give the public a chance to call in to 250-749-6681 with questions on items contained in this agenda, or they can email those questions if they can get that done in the next 3 minutes to general@lakecowichan.ca. Once again, that's 250-749-6681 for phone in or email to general@lakecowichan.ca. See you all at 8:03. Thank you.
Wait a couple minutes and we can pack up and get out of here.
Yeah.
My turn to unmute. Okay, Mr. Fernandez, any questions?
Nothing at all.
All right, so thank you very much. Okay, so we reached item number 14, which is in camera. Mr. Fernandez, could you describe the reasons for us that we're going in camera tonight?
Yes, indeed. Section 92 of the community charter requires that before a meeting or part of a meeting is to be closed to the public, council must take by resolution why the meeting is to be closed. And the basis on which the meeting is to be closed falls under the following section of the community charter. Section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fernandez. So a motion to go in camera under those regulations, moved by Councilor McGonigal, seconded by Councilor Vomaka. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we will leave this meeting and await the next invite to the in-camera meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the
Thank
public
you.
who attended tonight and participated, and see you soon.
I haven't received an invite for the in-camera yet, so I thought you
Not-
said you sent it, but,
No, not yet.
okay,
Send it
all
now.
right, all right. okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Move
Motion to
adjournment,
adjourn.
motion adjourn in camera, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go into game camera, so you're good.
Yeah, we're done. We'll adjourn out when we get to camera. Okay,